question paper of September 2021. This is a question paper from the province of Eastern Cape. According to our instructions and information, this question paper consists of 5 sections, and all questions in section A, B, C, D, and E are compulsory. So it means we have to answer all the questions that are in the question paper. So according to our sections, this is a breakdown that we have according to our section. Over section A up to E. And basically, this is the breakdown in terms of what we have. So with that, we would say that we have got a total of 200 marks in the question paper. And of course, it requires you to spend on average 180 minutes. So with that now, we move on to the first part of our question paper, which is our section A on short questions. So we're going to start with which is section, the first question that we have reads at the time in Japan when it is 1600 hours on 1 June in South Africa. So we need to calculate that as we find the time in South Africa. So you would see that South Africa is +2, and then Japan is +9. So it means the time of Japan is ahead of South Africa. So this is exactly what we have. So with that, we now find the difference between the two, whereby we are now saying 9 minus 2. So you'd see that Japan is ahead with 7 hours. So the time in Japan, so it means the 1600 hours that you are given is at the time in South Africa. So to find the time in Japan, since we are saying South Africa is behind, it means we're going to add the 7 hours that we got to 1600. So we're going to say our 1600, and then obviously we now add 7 hours. So if you add 7 hours, you're going to get your answer as 2300. So basically, this is our wave, and this makes our C to be the correct answer that we have. Then moving on to number 2, in 2022, this will be the first Middle East nation and also the smallest country to host a FIFA World Cup. So, and we know that the 2022 World Cup was hosted in Qatar. So we have Qatar as the correct answer. Then we go to number 3. When applying for a visa, one must submit a dash to the authorities of the country you want to visit. So according to the responses that we have, the correct one is A, completed application form and confirmation of employment. So that is A, becomes the correct answer that we have. So moving on to number 4, examples of political situations. Of course, the various responses given, you'd see that D, it describes a political situation whereby you've got general unrest and terrorism. So this is what we have at D. We go to number 5. A South African traveler will apply for a Schengen visa when wanting to visit. So you see that when it's a Schengen visa, you'd wanting to visit Italy. Italy is the correct country that we have, which is B. So we move on to number 6. So number 6, moving on to our number 6, we can just try to see with what questions. And of course, we are on number 5. So moving on to number 6, according to UNESCO's criteria, the cadre of humankind. The correct response is D. B is a unique testimony to a civilization which has disappeared, which is a D. Is our correct answer on number 6. Then moving on to number 7, an IDP. So of course, with the responses that we have, we would C as the correct answer. Validates the BRS driver's license in a foreign country. Then we go to number 8, the form of payment below. We've got a SWIFT, and then we have to identify the form of payment as given. So according to our responses, C is the most appropriate. Takes place over a computerized network from one bank account to to another. So we have C as the correct response. Then we go to number 9. A tourism business that offers bursaries to previously disadvantaged learners is an example of. So this is, we have got CSI as the correct response, which is a corporate social investment. So we have D as the correct answer. Then number 9, the Vatican City is, so which is the correct explanation in terms of the Vatican City. So you see that B, the split or center for followers of the Catholic Church. So we have a B as the correct answer. Then move on to the next part, which is number 11. So on number 11, it reads tourists that learn a few words in a foreign language prior to visiting the country in which the language is spoken are practicing. So this is practicing a responsible tourism, which is C. Then moving on to number 12, one of South Africa's biggest travel outdoor and adventure events. So according to responses that we have there, you see that is the Getaway Ashore, which is C. Then we go to number 13, considerations for management when planning the professional image of their business. D, a slogan and logo, a stationary appearance of business. So D is the most appropriate. So we have D. Then I move on to number 14. The damage caused by A or N is shown in the image below. So we have the image as indicated, and we can see that there's a building which is about to fall, and what can be the cause for that. So according to our responses, the most appropriate is an earthquake. The earthquake is the one that shakes the ground and causes buildings to fall. So we have A, earthquake. So with that, we move on to the next part of our question paper, which is now on question 15, a travel-related disease that cannot be prevented by vaccination. So you see that malaria can never be prevented by vaccination. So we have A, the Regis World Cultural and Botanical Landscape World Heritage Site is owned and managed by the Dutch community. So this is the Nama community, which we have in A. The number 17, the commercial bank exchanging the ZAR for GBP for a South African traveler prior to his departure. We will use the, so of course, the commercial bank will be selling and the South African traveler will be buying. So we take it from the point of view of the commercial bank, which is selling. So it's going to be the selling, we're going to use according to our responses. So we can check which can be the most appropriate. So the correct response that we have is B, the BSR. So we have B. The number 18, the core business of SA tourism. According to responses given, I see that B is correct. Coordinate the marketing efforts of role players in the tourism industry. Of course, we have our B. Number 19, example of goods that are regarded by South African customs as restricted goods. So the correct answer that we have is 1 month supply of pharmaceutical drugs or medicines for personal use accompanied by a doctor's prescription. So A is the correct response. Then we go to number 20. South Africa's current brand slogan, inspiring new ways. So we have A, or we have B as the correct response. So we go to the next part of our section A, 1.4, where we have to choose an attraction or destination for column B that matches the description in column A. So the first one reads a huge limestone statue located in Giza, Egypt. So we check according to what we have in terms of our column B. So we go there, you see that It is the Sphinx, which is C. So we take our C as the correct response. Then we go to 1.4.2, a symbol of the division between democracy and communism during the Cold War. So according to our responses, you would see that this is the Berlin Wall, which we have on F. So we can represent our F on 1.4.2. They're located at South Africa's border with Botswana and Namibia. So you see that this is the common cultural landscape, which you have on A. Then located at the summit of Mount Cocofado, Rio de Janeiro, which is Brazil. So we check according to what we have. We see that this is E, Statue of Christ the Redeemer. So we have E. So we go to number 5, a prosperous African kingdom dating from 1,000 years ago is G, the Mapungubwe cultural landscape. So we have G. So that's how we move on to the next part of our questions. We've got our 1.2, which we have to choose the term or concepts provided in the list below that best completes the descriptions. So first question, the percentage of foreign arrivals in a country. The percentage of foreign arrivals in the country. So we see that this is the market share. So this is 1.2.1. And then the best form of payment for a tourist when using a tax. So you'd see that this is obviously it's cash when it's a tax. So we are saying this is 1.2.2. Then move on to 1.2.3, a Roman arena used for public events. It is the Colosseum, which we have on this part, which is now our 1.2.3. Then we go to number 4, a factor contributing to the success of a tourist attraction. A factor contributing to the success of a tourist attraction. So you'd see that this is the most appropriate that we have is the CCTV camera, which is on this part. So we've got 1.2.4. 5, a characteristics of a successful tourist attraction. So what shows that it's a successful tourist attraction? Of course, if there are repeat visits that are taking place, the tourists are coming back at the same site, that's an indication of success. So you've got 1.2.5. So basically, that's what we have for that part. So we go to 1.3. You have to choose the correct words or words from those given in the bracket. So on the first part, a traveler entering South Africa carrying a package for a friend that was paid by the friend's mother should choose the dash channel on arrival at customs. Should choose the red is the correct one, the red channel. Then we go to 1.3.2. Daylight savings time is practiced in certain countries by adjusting their clocks 1 hour ahead in the dash month. So you see that this is the summer months. Then jet lag or jet fatigue is a travel-related condition caused by flying for many hours in an airplane. So this is jet fatigue. Then we go to 1.3.4. Of course, jet lag is traveling across different time zones. Then we go to 1.3.4. India or Central Africa is a yellow fever endemic area. So see that Central Africa is correct. Then a passport issued to a South African citizen at the age of 12 years is valid for 10 years from the date of issue. It is 5 years from the date of issue. So this is what we have in terms of our question 1.3, and of course we still have 1.5, which says rearrange the steps in the correct order for an inbound international tourist arriving at OR Tambo International Airport in South Africa. Write only the letters A to E in the answer book. So we need to present them in the correct order. So you see that the first one, of course, we have got A to E. So which one is number 1 and which one is number 2? And of course, one is A is one, whereby we're saying a flight lanes will run away. And then number two is our next step will be D. That is the passenger enters the airside of the ORTIA. And then we check in terms of the next step. We go to E, passenger reports to immigration control. So this is number three. Go to number four. We check passenger collects luggage. Passenger collects luggage at baggage carousel. So we have that as our number four. Then we check which one is the next one, which is now we are left with the C, which is passenger passes through customs. So we have now this as our number five. So exactly this is the order that we have, and of course this is the end of our section A, and we can see that our section A has a total of 40 marks. So from there, we move on to the next question. Of course, this is going to be on the next section. Well, on our section B, it's on map work and tour planning. And also we've got foreign exchange. So question two, of course, this is our map work and tour planning. It is use the world zone map. It's the scenario to answer the questions. So we're given a map, so we can just try to go through the map that we have. And of course, this is our map. So beneath that, now we are given our information. We've got WHO online press conference on the COVID-19 pandemic. Then we've got information that you need to go through before you start to answer the question. Then moving on to 2.1.1, it reads, calculate the time and date that the USA Secretary of Health, Mr. Javier Becerra, logged into the online press conference from his office in Washington, D.C. So it is in Washington, D.C. So the time that is needed is in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America. So obviously, you're going to use the time zone for the USA, which is United States of America. And then you have to show all calculations. So we check when we have the commencing time, which we are given here is 1500 hours, which is given here. And of course, this is on 3 March. And the time that we are given, we check which time is it related to and which country is that. So of course, we are going to match that with Washington, D.C. in USA. So if you go back to the information that we have, you'll see that this is taking place at Geneva, Switzerland. So we're going to check the time zone for Geneva, Switzerland, and then also compare it with the USA time. So if you go to the map, you'll see that we check in terms of Geneva, Switzerland. We see that Geneva, Switzerland, we are given it at this point. And of course, we check now which time zone do we have at that point. So we see that if you go up, we'll see that it is in line with our +1. So our Switzerland is a +1. So we are saying if we come here, so we are saying Switzerland is a +1. Then we check Washington, D.C., United States of America. If you come again, in terms of our map, check where we have our United States of America. Of course, we have United States of America at this point. And then we check which is the correct. And of course, if you go there, you'll see that for USA, it is +6. If you check there, you'll see that we are here at this point. We go up to check which exactly do we have. You go up there where we have indications. And then if you check where we have put our Washington is at this point. So if you go up, you see that it is a minus 5 is indicated, minus 5. So it means if you come here, we indicate as such, whereby you're saying USA is minus 5. So it means Switzerland is ahead. So we check the number of hours in between. So we are not going to say Switzerland minus USA, but saying minus 1 minus 5, which is the same as saying 1 plus 6, and you get your 7 hours. So after getting your 7 hours, it means, sorry, yes, this one is going to be plus 5. Sorry, here we 8, and then it becomes plus 5. So it will give you 6 hours. So we are saying 1 plus 5, and you get your 6 hours. So after getting your 6 hours, now we now know that the time that we are looking for is Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. is behind. So we are going to say this 6 hours minus the time in Switzerland, which is 1500 hours. So we're going to say our 1500 hours, and then we subtract our 6 hours. So if you subtract your 6 hours, you're going to get it as 09:00. This will now be AM, this is 9 AM. And it's still on the same day because there was no overlapping in terms of days. So it means this is on 3 March 2020. So it's on 3 March 2020. So basically that's the calculation that we have on 2.1.1. So we move on to the next part of our question. We're moving on to 2.1.2. It says calculate the time and date that the Australian Minister of Health, the Honorable Greg Hunt, logged into the online press conference from his office in Canberra, the capital city of Australia. Remember that Australia was practicing daylight savings. So daylight savings time. So it means you're going to add here, you're going to say plus 1 for the Australian time zone. And then this is at the time of the online press conference. So of course, we refer back to the differences between Geneva, Switzerland, and Canberra, Australia. So for Geneva, Switzerland, we check what we have in terms of Geneva. We go back to our map and check in terms of Geneva, Switzerland. And of course, if you check, we've got Switzerland in this part, and it's on this point, and it's a plus 1. So we indicate it as a plus 1. Then Canberra, Australia. We check again what we have in terms of Canberra. We check where we have our Australia. So if you go up there, you'll see that we have got our Australia at this point. Australia, it is at this point, and it is indicating Australia, and it's getting it is indicating a 10. As we see at this point, we have got a 10. So the 10 is indicated here. So it's going to be a plus 10. So with that now, we come back and indicate our plus 10. But of course, we said Australia was practicing DST, so we're going to say plus 1. So we say a year plus 1, and it becomes a plus 11. And then with that now, we now check the difference that we have in terms of the hours, whereby we're now saying 11 minus 1. And we're going to get a 10 hours. So basically that's what we have on that part. And then the time that we are looking for, they're saying calculate the time and date that the Australian Minister of Health and Australia, we have seen that Australia is ahead. So we are going to add 10 hours with the time that we have. So our 10 hours will be added to 1500 hours. As the question is saying, calculate the time and date, and that the Australian Minister of Health, the Honourable Craig Hunt, logged into the online press conference in his office in Canberra. So the logging time is the time when it is the meeting is commencing, which is 1500 hours. So we are now saying 1500 hours. And then we add your 10 hours. Obviously, it's going to become 2500. Of course, it's after 24, so it means you subtract your 2400 and it becomes an AM the following day. Since we've got 25, so if you subtract there, you get 0100, which is on the following day. Remember, the day when it commenced, it was 3 March, then now it's now going to be 4 March. So it is on 4 March 2021. So basically, that's the calculation that we have on that part. And then we move on to the next part of our question. Moving on to question 2.1.3, South Africa joined the rest of the world in sourcing COVID-19 vaccinations. The first batch of vaccinations was placed on an Air Emirates flight that departed from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaji International Airport in Mumbai, India, en route to OR Tambo International Airport, Johannesburg, South Africa on 31 January 2021. So the flight pattern is given below. So I given the flight pattern on this part. And then if you go to the question part now, it's saying calculate the date and time of arrival of the flight at OR Tambo International Airport, Johannesburg, South Africa, and be able to show all calculations. So with that, we check in terms of Mumbai, India. What do we have? Because it's departing in Mumbai, India, is indicated here. So India was the time zone. If you come here, you see that India. We have India in this part. India is in this part, and we have a plus 5.5. So indicated as such, whereby we are saying it's equal to plus 5.5. And of course, now we check in terms of Johannesburg because its arrival is in what? OR Tambo International Airport, Johannesburg, which is South Africa. Then we check in terms of our South Africa. If we go down, you see that we have South Africa. We check there, we see that we have got here a plus 2 at this part. Of course, South Africa is here. We have got plus 2 on this part. And then we indicate as such. So we are saying now for SA, we've got a plus 2. So having done that now, we see that we now check the time difference. So the time difference will be now saying equal to our 5.5 minus 2. And we are going to get 3.5 hours. So we've got a time difference of 3.5 hours, which is 3.5 hours. Then we now check in terms of the departure time that we have there. As in India, it is 0430 in India, and we are seeing that South Africa is behind with 3.5 hours. So you have to subtract 430 minus 3.5 hours to get the South African time at the departure time. So departure time in South Africa. We say the Indian time, which is 14:30, minus 3.5 is 3 hours and 30 minutes. Remember, half an hour is 30 minutes. So if you subtract there, you're going to get your answer is 01 and 00, which is obviously 1 a.m. And then we check in terms of the total flying time that we have. We given total flying time as 15 hours, 15 minutes. So that's the time that we are going to add there. So we now say 0100 plus 15 hours, 15 minutes. So we say plus 15 hours, 15 minutes. So we add, we get 16:15. Obviously, this is going to be 16:15. And in terms of our day, remember, this was on 31 January 2021, and still on the same date. Because when we subtracted 04:30, we got 1 a.m., which is on the same day. And then we added our 15 hours, 15 minutes, and we got 16:15, which is on the same day again. So it's going to be on 31 January 2021. So basically, that's what we have on that part, which is our A. Then we go to B, the crew. The crew of the Air Emirates flight that transported the vaccination to South Africa from South Africa suffered from jet lag on their arrival. List 3 symptoms of this travel-related condition. So they want symptoms of jet lag. So of course we have to come up with those symptoms. So we are saying in terms of symptoms of jet lag, we're going to say have issues like interrupted sleep, discomfort in legs and feet. Those are typical symptoms that we are going to see. So these are the symptoms that we have. We've got the first one, insomnia, and then we've got fatigue, irritability, interrupted sleep, discomfort in legs and feet, struggle to concentrate, constipation or diarrhea, confusion and disorientation, dehydration, headaches, and of course we have got further symptoms that we also have. So these are the symptoms of jet lag. So that's how we move on to the next part of our question, which is now C. The crew for the Emirates flight will be required to pass through customs control with their personal luggage on their arrival in South Africa. Explain the function performed by customs control. So question requires us to come up with functions that are performed by customs control. So what are the functions? So customs control controls the flow of goods in and out of a country. It's responsible for the collection and safekeeping of customs duties in a country. Enforces the laws that govern the import and export of goods to and from the country. So basically, those are the functions. And then, of course, moving on to the next part of our question, which is now going to be 2.2. Study the image and text, the image and text, and answer the question that follow. Of course, the first question reads, identify the compounds and travel document in the image above. In your answer, refer to letters ABC. So which one is compounds that are according to ABC? So you see that we have the passport as the one which is compounds and B. Then explain the use of the travel document labeled C. If you go to C, you'll see that we can try to zoom out, and we can see that it is indicating to be a health certificate. There's an issue of vaccination as indicated, so it is a health certificate. So we're saying it is a health certificate, and then the question requires us to explain the use of a healthy certificate. So So it verifies, obviously, it verifies the health position of the traveler, whether the traveler is in a good healthy condition. So basically, that's what we have on that part. So you're saying it's a healthy certificate. The health certificate is a statement signed by a health care provider, such as a doctor or nurse, that verifies the health of the bearer of the certificate or verifies that the bearer of the certificate has had a certain vaccination. So that's what we have on 2.2.2. Moving on to the next part, it reads, explain the use of the travel document labeled C. Uh, this is one that we have answered. So we go to 2.2.3. Due to the travel restrictions resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, some countries are considering implementing vaccine passports. This is a digital certificate sold on the traveler's smartphone showing proof of vaccination and permits them to travel. Discuss two advantages of a traveler being in possession of a vaccine passport when traveling international. Two advantages of a traveler being in possession of a vaccine passport. So we can come up with various advantages. So it means when you're having a vaccine passport, it means you are not a risk to other people that you are going to meet. You're not going to spread any disease. So that's the most important part of it. Then we move on to our responses that we have within the context of this video. We are saying the travel and possession of the vaccine passport will not infect other people with COVID-19 should he or she encounter other people. So that's the first advantage. Second advantage, the travel and possession of the vaccine passport will not become infected with COVID-19 again should he or she encounter other people. So you're not going to be infected. And this vaccine passport will result in an increase in travel as the travel restrictions in place due to COVID-19 will be lessened. So these are the advantages that we have as listed. We move on to the next part of our question, which is now 2.3. Read the extract and answer the question. So we got an extract which reads, return to a new conferencing experience that puts your safety alongside our re-owned hospitality. That is Togo Sun Hotels. The first part of the question, identify the type of tourists that would attend a COVID-19 complaint conference at one of Togo Sun Hotels. So obviously, we are going to have business tourists. That is 2.3.1. So we are saying on that part, we have got a business tourist. We can also have an alternative response that can come up with. Of course, the question requires us for one response. Then with that, 2.3.2 suggests two COVID-19 safety measures that the conference organizer at Togo Sun must have in place. Obviously, the use of masks is seen on the picture that we have. The use of masks is a safety measure. So with that, we are saying delegates' temperature will be scanned with a thermal scanner on arrival at the hotel. So this is one of the precautions. Delegates will be required to complete a screening questionnaire on arrival. Will be required to exercise sanitizing and disinfecting practices. Will be required to wear masks except when eating or drinking. So further points also have that I explained that. And this becomes the last part that we have in terms of our question 2. Moving on to question 3, it is started the exchange rate table below. Another question that follow, of course, we are given an exchange rate table. So 3.1, the South African business owner is planning a business trip to Rome, that is Italy. He has 40,000 rands to exchange for his expenses during the trip. So you have to calculate the number of euros that he will receive when he exchanges his 45,000 rands. So of course, the South African business owner needs euros, so he's going to buy the euros. But in the process, the rate that is going to be used is from the point of view of the bank. So the bank is the one that is supposed to sell, so that the business owner can buy. So the selling rate um, the bank is the one that we are going to use, as we are going to divide 45,000 divided by 16.98. So in that sense, 103.1, we are going to say our 45,000 rands, and then we divide by 16.98, which is the rate that we have here. So if you divide the answer that you are supposed to get now will be converted to euros. So we'll be having 2,650 euros, and of course we've got a 0.18. Of course, our question is saying round off your answer to 2 decimal places. So we can just take note of that. So it means you can present your answer to 2 decimal places. So this is the number of euros, 2,650. Of course, we've got some 18 cents that we have there. Then on the next question that we have is 3.2. Upon his return to South Africa, the business owner has 23 euros left over from his trip. Calculate how much he will receive in rand when he exchanges 23 euros. Of course, in this case, the business owner is now selling at the euros. But from the point of view of the bank is buying the euros. So we're going to go to the buying rate of euros, of which we are given it as 16.39, which we have in this part. So we are saying 3.2. The number of euros left is indicated, we've got 23. Then we multiply by the buying rate, which is 16.39. So when we do that, we get our amount in rands, which we are going to get is 300. We can just try to see what we get. We say 23 times 16.39. So you are going to get your answer is 376 rands 97 cents. So basically this is what we have on this part. And then we go to the next question, which is now 3.3. Sia is a top academic achiever at his school in the Eastern Cape. When he finished school, he wants to start medicine and has been saving money for many years. He has 175,000 rands saved for spending money. He has applied to and been accepted at both the University of California, which is USA, and also the University of Oxford, which is England. Then calculate how much Sia will receive in USD if he exchanges 175,000 rands in comparison for his trip. So this person wants to buy the USD using the rands. So from the point of view of the bank is selling that USD. So we are going to use, we can just go back to our exchange rate table, and we see that in this case, we are going to use the rate that we have for selling, since this person wants to buy the USD and the bank is selling. So we go to the selling rate, which is 13.87. So we are going to divide 175,000 by 13.87. So in that case, we are going to see 175,000 rands, and then we divide by 13.87. So you divide, you're going to get it as 12,000. You get it as 12,617 dollars 16 cents. So your answer is at 12,617 dollars, and of course we've got 16 cents to 2 decimal places as indicated. You get this as 12,717 rands 16 cents. So this is our 3.3.1. 3.3.2, calculate how much Sia will receive in GBP if he exchanges 175,000 in preparation for his trip. Round off your answer to 2 decimal places. So in terms of GBP, which is the Great Britain pound, you're supposed to also check in terms of the selling rate of the bank, and then we divide into 175,000. So we go back there and see what is the selling rate for the GBP, which is 19.77. So we divide by 19.77. So we come back, we do a search whereby we are saying 175,000, and then we divide by 19.77. And your answer that you are supposed to get now in pounds would be 8,851 pounds. Of course, we've got 8 cents. So this is what we have to do decimal places. Then on the next part, determine which country will allow SIA to have more spending money while we is studying medicine. Determine which country we have allow SIA to have more spending money. So of course, the one with the lowest rate will allow SIA to buy more units of that currency. So we are going to the selling rate, and that's where the rate is going to be used when SIA is buying the currency. And the one with the lowest will be the one which is going to give SIA more spending rate. So we come to the selling column. And we see that this is our selling column on this part. So the one with the least is on this part, which is the USA, which is the dollar. So the country is USA or United States of America. So on that part, we indicate it as USA. So that's what we have on that part. So moving on to 3.4, start the image and answer the questions that follow. So the question says, discuss the impact of the decline of the value of rand in relation to the US dollar on international inbound tourists from the United States of America to South Africa. So of course, those tourists that are coming into South Africa, what is going to happen in terms of traffic is the rand declines value. So in that case, we are going to say that the US tourists are going to buy more units using the same amount of US dollars. They buy more units of rands. So they are going to come more because it becomes cheaper from their side to buy the South African rand, and they come and enjoy in the local economy. So in that case, we are going to see more tourists coming. So basically, that is the basic explanation that we can give in terms of our 3.4. So 3.4, we are saying when the value of the rand is low in relation to the US dollar, international tourism from the USA to South Africa will increase. So that's the first point that we have. And also USA tourists will receive South Africa as a cheap destination. So further points we also have that are correcting that scenario, that are actually explaining the scenario that we have at hand. So this is what we have, guys, in terms of our question 3. And of course, we do have the next question. Moving on to our section C, we have got question 4, which is on tourism attractions. So it is start the travel vision board, a collage of all the places that you would like to travel. That you created with images of world icons and answer the question that follows. Of course, we are given the travel vision board from A going to F. So of course, within that context, we are given that give the official names of the icons labeled A to F in your travel vision board. So of course, we have A, and of course, this is our A is indicated. So see that going to our A, you'd see that this is A. This is our Black Forest, is indicated in our answer section. We have Black Forest, which we find in Germany. Then we have got the next part. We have got our B. B is on this part, and our B is the Sydney. Of course, our B is the Sydney Opera House, as indicated, and you see that the Sydney Opera House, we find it in Australia. We go to the Great Wall of China, indicates our C. we have a Great Wall of China as our C. So this is our C. And we are saying, obviously, the country is China. Then we've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa as our D. So moving to our D, you see that our D is in this part. This is the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and obviously this one we find it in Italy. So Leaning Tower of Pisa, we find it in Italy. Then we've got Ayers Rock, which is our E. Going down, you see that we've got our Ayers Rock here, which is our E. And the Ayers Rock, we find it in Australia again. And then we've got the Niagara Falls that we have as our F, which we have it on this part, which is Niagara Falls. And then our Niagara Falls, we find them in Canada. So this is what we have in terms of our first part 4.1.1, and we'll move on to the next question, which is now 4.1.2. Provide the following information about your travel vision board and the number of continents that you visit. So of course, this is our travel vision board, and all these features that we have, they constitute how many continents? That's the question. So if you come here, you would see that we've already indicated in terms of their countries, and we can see that Germany is in Europe. Australia is also Australia. It's a continent on its own. We have got China, which is Asia. Italy, Europe again. We have again Europe. Australia, still Australia. And then, of course, Canada is North America. So in terms of the number of continents, we have got one Europe, we have Australia, we have got Asia, Europe we've already counted, Australia we've already counted, so we also have North America, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 is indicated on the answer. We move on to the next part now, which is going to be question 4.1.2. Provide the following information about your travel vision board. And the number of continents that you visit, we have indicated the number of the country featuring 2 icons. Of course, we have already indicated there. You see that Australia is the one that has got 2 features, which is the Sydney Opera and also the Ayers Rock. So we have Australia. Then we move on to the next question. What nature-based activity you participate in when visiting the icon labeled A? Nature-based activity in A. So the nature-based activity in A is we can have hiking, walking, mountain biking, skiing, snowboarding, skiing in lakes, boating can be correct. So obviously, if you refer back to our question, you'd see that the question needs only one nature-based activity, so we can just include one. So when we go to the next part, 4.2, some the information on Venice and answer the question that follows. So this is the information that we have that we need to go through. So with that, first question reads, identify the main problem caused by tourism that the city authorities in Venice must manage. What is the main problem caused by tourism that the city authorities must manage? So in that sense, you'd see that overcrowding is a problem. We can include overcrowding. We can also include mass tourism as a problem. And also the total number of tourists received daily being greater than the total number of inhabitants of the city. So that can be a problem. So these are the responses that we have. Overcrowding, mass tourism, the total number of tourists received daily. So these are the responses that we have. So move on to the next part of our question. Give one reason why Venice is a popular icon. So in response to that, you'd see that the historic city is built on wooden platforms anchored on 118 small islands in a lagoon linked by canals and bridges. That's the first point. Venice is famous for its architecture and art, for example, narrow streets, canals, bridges, palaces, churches, monuments, museums, and art galleries. Further points we also have that are also correct. Then we move on to the next part, 4.2.3. Suggest two factors that led to the decision by the city authorities to act against fast food outlets in Venice. That is our 4.2.3. So these are the points that we have. Fast food packaging waste contributed to an increase in litter, water pollution. Convenience of fast food outlets influenced tourists not to support traditional Venetian sit-down restaurants. And also with further points also that we can also include that are also correct. Then move on to the next part of our question, 4.2.4. Discuss two environmental benefits that will result from the ban on large cruise ships. So in response to that, the ban on cruise ships will reduce water and air pollution in the Venice Lagoon and Canal. It will reduce the damage to the foundations of the buildings that was caused by the movements of water by cruise ships, and the water quality of the lagoon and canals will improve. So these are the responses on question 4. We're moving on to our question 5. It will start the image of a South African World Heritage Site and other questions that follow. So this is the World Heritage Site that we have, and of course we can try to zoom it out. So this is what we have in terms of the site. Then in terms of the question that we have on that site, it is identify the World Heritage Site in the image. And so you see that this is the Isimangaliso Wetland Park. So we are saying the heritage site is Isimangaliso Wetland Park, as indicated. And of course, this next question is name the province in which a tourist must be to visit the World Heritage Site. And this is KwaZulu-Natal. So this is what we have. And then we move on to our next part of our question, which is about 5.3. We have got information that we need to go through before we go to the first part of the question. It says you decide to enter the competition and arrange with your family to visit the World Heritage Site shown in the image above. Name 3 types of landforms you photographed to show the geographical diversity of the World Heritage Site. We can have photographed beaches, dunes, lakes, swamps, reed and papyrus wetlands. So, of course, you can choose any of those that are listed. Then from there, in terms of the next question, let's suggest 2 ways in which UNESCO African World Heritage Site Instagram committed will add value to South African tourism industry. So in that case, to create international awareness of Africa's World Heritage Sites, encourage the youth and local population to preserve their cultural and natural heritage, increased visitor numbers to the provincial area where the World Heritage Sites are located. Of course, we do have further points that we can also include that are also correct. So this is what we have on our question. On our question 5, and of course, we move on to the next question, which is going to be our question 6. So in terms of our question 6, I will start the extract below and answer the question that follows. So we give an extract of South African tourism at South Africa, UK. So this is the information that we have. Then the first part of the question, identify the source market targeted by SA Tourism in its Twitter marketing campaign. So you see that the market targeted by SA Tourism is UK and Ireland. So we have UK and Ireland as indicated. Of course, UK is United Kingdom, and also we have Ireland. So this is what we have that part. Then we got 6.2. SA Tourism Hash Meet South Africa marketing campaign was renamed to Hash Meet South Africa later due to the COVID-19 pandemic. International travel restrictions suggest two reasons behind SA Tourism's Twitter post of 31 May 2020. So the reasons behind, you'd see that the shared photos would create an awareness of South Africa as a travel destination during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's the first point. And also the shared photos could lead to an increase in new arrivals from UK and Ireland once travel restrictions are lifted. Previous visitors from the UK and Ireland might consider returning to South Africa when travel restrictions are lifted. So those are the points that we have on that part. And then moving on to the next question. We move on to the next question that we have, which is now 6.3. We're given the WTM, where it reads, the WTM is the leading global event for the travel industry to meet industry professionals and conduct business deals. So explain how SA Tourism is funded to market South Africa as a tourism of destination, as a tourism destination of choice at the WTM. So in response to that, the tourism levy, South Africa, so obviously the TOMSA, a private sector initiative, collects 1% tourism levy. So that's how it collects its revenue. And also voluntarily paid by customers. Also, it's another source from participating tourism businesses. Also, for example, tour operators, car rental companies, and accommodation establishment. Also, you've got the Tourism Business Council of South Africa administers TOMSA. And then lastly, the TBCSA ensures that the collected funds are available to SA Tourism for marketing. So this is our question 6. Question 7 reads the newspaper article and answer the question that follow. We are given an article of cabin crew member takes well-known South African airline to court for unfair dismissal. So you need to go through information that we have. Of course, but the key part is that there is an unfair dismissal and that is inside the information. So first part of the question, name the contract that Susan would have signed when she was employed by Penica Airways. Because in this case, Susan was unfairly dismissed. So there is a contract that should be signed to protect Susan in such scenarios. So this is the contract of employment. Contract of employment, that's where we're going to have the terms in which how we are going to work and the conditions. So it protects the worker from unfair practices at that organization or business. Then I state one reason why it is important for employees to sign the contract mentioned in question 7.1, why it is important to sign the contract of employment. So we are saying employees should sign a contract of employment so that they are aware of the employer's expectations. The signing of a contract of employment protects employees against unfair practices in the workplace, and also the signing of a contract protects the employer should the employee dispute any conditions of employment. So this is what we have on this part. Then we go and see on the next person, identify the document that Susan contravened, disobeyed when she acted in a professional way, complaining to the passengers about her working hours. So you'd see that this is the code of conduct when Susan had to complain to passengers, which she was not supposed to act in that way. So we are saying it's code of conduct of Penica Airways. That is the document that was contravened or disobeyed. Then 7.4 lists 2 reasons why a business should have a document referred to in question 7.3, why they should have a code of conduct. So a code of conduct sets out what is important to a business, its ethics and principles, and prescribes how staff should behave while at work. It helps to identify and state clearly which behavior is welcome and which is not. So further points we also have that are also emphasizing on the relevance or the importance of the code of conduct. And then we go to our 7.5. Give your opinion about the validity of the statement by the CEO of Penica Airways, Themba Dlengane, about Susan's unprofessional behavior. This is what we have on 7.5, and our response to that is that the CEO was justified in being unhappy about Susan's complaining to passengers about a shift, as she acted in an unprofessional manner by complaining to passengers, which is something that should not be done by any employee, to complain to customers or passengers in this case, which is something which has to be communicated in a professional way. In that case, we move on to the next part, which is 7.6. Airline cabin crew members work in a demanding or challenging environment. Give one reason to support this statement. Why airline cabin crew members work in a demanding or challenging environment. So we're saying the cabin crew has to deal with the challenges of passengers with many differing needs and expectations. And not all the passengers will be easy to handle again. So that's another challenge. Cabin crews have to work long hours on their feet most of the time while acting in a professional manner. And then cabin crews have to fly to main destinations in the course of their work, which can be demanding. So this is what we have in terms of our question 7. So moving on to our question 8, it reads, read the scenario and answer the questions that follow. So we are given a scenario of responsible environmental management at Mashobela Lodge, morning sun nature reserve. Of course, we have information that we need to go through before you attempt to answer the questions that are given. So that we also have our question part, whereby question 8.1 is list 2 of the 6 principles of fair trade tourism. So you see that principles of fair trade tourism, we also have respect, also have reliability. We can also include transparency. So we have got a list of them as indicated in our answer section, whereby we've got sustainability, fair share, democracy, respect, transparency, reliability. So these are the principles that we have. Then after that, we move on to the next question, which is discuss the value of a fair trade accreditation certification for Mashobela Lodge. What is the value of a fair trade accreditation? So in that case, you see that the points that we have is that a destination that is fair trade tourism accredited will attract environmentally conscious tourists, and this could lead to an increase in visitor numbers. So that becomes a benefit or an advantage. A destination that is fair trade tourism accredited will encourage positive word of mouth advertising. So these are the responses that we have in terms of 8.2. So move on to 8.3. Suggest one strategy under each of the following headings that Mashobela Lodge can implement to maintain or continue their commitment to responsible environment management. So, strategy under the following headings, we have got waste management as the first one. So in terms of waste management, we are saying reuse, reduce, recycle. So those are the strategies. And then on the second part, we have water supply. So in terms of water supply, limit water usage, ensure that no taps leak, collect rainwater for reuse, use grey water where possible. So that's what we have on that part. Then also have renewable resource. So in terms of renewable resource, it's so solar panels, it's so wind turbines. And then we go to our question 8.4, whereby 8.4 is explain one reason why Mashobela Lodge should educate people about protecting our planet. So what can be the importance of protecting our planet? People should be educated about protecting our planet because this will lead to conservation of the planet's resources for future generations. They will ensure that our resources are maintained and not depleted. They will create an awareness of conservation. So this is what we have on 8.4. Then in terms of 8.5, sustainable tourism encompasses more than ensuring that the environment is well looked after. Suggest one manner whereby Mashobela Lodge can ensure that they uphold the following pillars of sustainable tourism. Social pillar. So in terms of social pillar, Mashovela Lodge can put programs in place that acknowledge the local culture and the heritage. That's our first point. And also they can become involved in social upliftment programs, provision of medical facilities and staff to attend to the needs of the local community, provision of funded education facilities for the local community. So basically, this is what we have for the 8.5.1. Then 8.5.2, economic pillar. So in terms of economic pillar, implement community shareholding in the business, create employment opportunities, paying decent wages, ensure the development of supply businesses from the local community, implement a fair recruitment process, and then practice local procurement. Of course, these are the points that we have. And this is the end of our question 4. Move on to the next question. Moving on to our question 9, that is under section E. It's on domestic, regional, and international tourism. So the question reads, study the extract and images below another question that follow. Of course, we are given the G7 summit in Cornwall, United Kingdom. Joy and concern as Camby's Bay is chosen to host the summit. So we have got information that we need to go through before we go to the requirements of the question. So our question 9.1.1, explain one reason that influenced local leaders to make the statement hosting the G7 summit in Cornwall will provide a fantastic opportunity to showcase the region on the world stage. And we have that statement on this part, whereby it is hosting the G7 summit in Cornwall will provide a fantastic opportunity to showcase the region on the world stage, local leaders have said. So the question requires us to come up with one reason that influenced the local leaders to make the statement. So you'll see that in terms of the reasons, of course, we are going to see that increased marketing for Cornwall is a result of the global media coverage. So we are going to see that due to that event, we're going to see media coverage coming in to cover that summit. So in that case, we are saying this G7 summit will focus on the world's media and TV on Cornwall, providing exposure to a global audience. And also media personnel from over the world who visit Cornwall to report on the event. So this is what we have got. Further points that are also correct that we can include, but of course, our question only requires us to come up with one reason. Then from there, we move on to the next question. Next question reads, suggest 2 incidents or happenings that would have disrupted the lives of the residents in the weeks and days leading up to, as well as during the G7 G7 summit. Of course, transport problems can be one of the disruptions that could transpire. So we are saying potential transport disruptions such as road closures in areas around the venues being used for the events, roadblocks, and disruption of train schedules. So that's what we have for transport problems. The influx of international visitors also, and the development of additional police officers to boost the existing local police teams. So we've got further points that we can also include in terms of 9.1.2. And of course, our question only requires us to come up with 2 points. So this is what we have on this part. I'll move on to 9.1.3. The global recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic was one of the main discussion points at the G7 summit. In a paragraph, I discussed 3 ways in which this unforeseen occurrence negatively impacted the international tourism economy. So, of course, it negatively affected because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, there was a reduction noticed in terms of revenue in the tourism industry. So negative effect was actually noticed. So within that context, we also have responses that are aligning to that. We're saying global measures introduced to contain the virus led to a stop of tourism activities around the world is one of the points. And the tourism business suffered a major loss in revenue, so loss of revenue due to the dramatic decrease in international tourist arrivals. And also COVID-19 pandemic resulted in permanent job losses or reduced working hours for employees in the tourism sector. Further points we also have that are also correct in terms of our 9.1.3. So moving on to our question 9.2, study the statistics below and answer the question that follow. Given statistics and what do international visitors spend their money on while in South Africa? So this is the title that we have. And then in terms of the further information given of the statistics, you need to go down checking. Then we've got a description of non-specific products. These are products that visitors buy that are not specifically related to tourism activities. So in terms of the first question, state the increase in the total amount of international visitors spent that contributed to South African economy in 2017 compared to 2005. And of course, this is total amount of international visitors spent that contribute to the African economy. So we are comparing 2017 and 2005. We check the increase. So we go to the information that we have. So if you come on that part, on this part, see that we are given in 2017 151 billion, 2005 51 billion. Then we check the difference by saying 151 billion minus 51 billion. You subtract, we are going to get your answer is 100 billion. So that's a calculation on that part. So we've got an increase of 100 billion. Then you go to 9.2.1, identify the year in which the air transport spend item for international visitors reached its highest ranking. So international visitors. So we check where we have our international visitors and check international visitors in terms of the air transport. So we can check here. So we're going to look for air transport. So according to the information that we have, air transport, we have it at this point. We see that this is the trend of air transport, and we see that this is the trend of air transport. So in terms of its highest point, it is on this part. And we see that the year, if we go down, of this part going down, you see that we are going to your 2016. So basically, this is your 2016. This is what we have. So specifically, we have our 2016. So that's move on to the next question. Recommend 2 ways in which tourism businesses can increase the spend by international tourists. So how can they increase? So these are the ways they can use above and below line promotional techniques, special offers. You can use also discount offered for bulk purchases, packaging of multiple tourism products. So these are the strategies that can be employed. And this becomes the last question that we have in terms of our question 9. We move on to question 10. So this is our question 10, whereby you have to start the extract below and answer the questions that follow. You've got an extract of hellopeter.com. Of course, this is a website, as we see from the title, hellopeter.com, indicating a website. So Hello Peter is a platform connecting South African consumers and businesses. So we go down and we see that there is chatting that is taking place. So someone chatting, we are reading. We are sorry to hear that you were not satisfied with the outcome of your meal. From Tikatai, East London, we passed this on to the relevant team member to contact you. We apologize once again for the inconvenience caused. So we see that this is a response. Of course, there is a complaint that is being lodged. I ordered a 514 chicken at Tikatai, East London on 17 March at around 14:15. When my meal arrived, I could tell that the chicken was off. I spoke to the manager and he offered to make me another 514 chicken. When the new meal arrived, the chicken was still off and tasted even worse. The manager also said he could smell the chicken was off. So this is information that we have in terms of the chatting that is taking place. Then 10.1 is identify the customer feedback method used in the extract below. So you see that it is the web-based it is web-based, we can say online, or we can say internet, since it's a website. So we go to the next question. Give one benefit for consumers reading service delivery reviews on the Hello Peter platform. So what are the benefits of using the website through the Hello Peter platform? It offers valuable guidance for people who have used a service or product, assists consumers in their decision making about which businesses to support, provides information about the trustworthiness of the business. So these are the points that were on my part. And on the last part, suggest negative impacts for the business because of the ticker time management not following through on the intervention plan they posted to the Hello Peter platform. So the negative impacts of the business because of ticker time management not following. So the the negative impact of not following, obviously you're going to lose customers. You're not going to have customer retention. Customers are not going to come back, no repeat visits. So those are the negative impacts that we can clearly deduce. So you're saying the image of the business will be damaged. It's one of the negative impacts. Customer will not return to support the business as the complaint was not resolved quickly and efficiently. And other consumers will see that Ticker Tile does not care about its customers. So these are some of the points that we can include in terms of this part.